No.
Well, I see,
There you go.
I see us in the lower right
Sorry.
corner there.
Perfect. That's what I need to know. Okay, good. So we are recording. This will be kind of like last time. Unfortunately, the other room was not available that live streams. So this is a recording that we'll just have to upload. You can thank the snow.
I'm thinking I will meet Tuesday next week and not Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, yeah, I saw that today. That's what I was telling you, 15, 20 inches of snow again?
That's what they, I heard
Oh, boy.
10. Yeah, well, who knows?
Yeah, hopefully it'll miss us a little bit.
I mean,
It always goes down. So let's pick up where we stopped. We stopped at Jude's Ferry, and I think the last parcels we looked at were the ones that Don suggested adding to across from the high school. So, and like we did last time, I'll let Bob handle
Yep.
the GIS, and I'll be the scribe.
Was everyone good on that? Did
You'll be
we,
the
did we
pointer?
resolve that?
What was
The
that?
the road realignment and the properties across from the high school?
so pull it up for 1 second. If you can get there, just pull up those parcels kind of around the high school that we
Yeah.
talked about. I think it's a great idea. Yeah,
And what was the question?
Bill won't see the colors.
Yeah,
So I think with that addition of 4195, Don, the resolution of road alignment comes into play at that point.
yeah,
So I think
which is intentional, right?
yeah, and what we would hope is that the memory will be there when that actually, someone comes and says they want to rezone it to I-1, that the memory is there for us to say, by the way, you got to dedicate right away.
If it's not out of bounds with the
Okay.
comp plan amendment ideas for this year, it might be worth looking at the transportation plan element. Because I know Carter Gallier Boulevard is specifically mentioned there.
Yeah.
So maybe this could be called like the Old Church Road Extension. And then it'll be a basis for, discussion and any kind of zoning case.
Wasn't it called the East-West Road at one point? Something?
Connector road.
Connector Road.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that would work then.
I mean, it would probably be a much future once we get Carter Gallier
Right.
and just do a continuation as we go down there. So
Yeah.
So is
it's worth adding to the transportation plan.
That's what I'm
Update.
thinking. Yeah, I mean, that was the whole point with the Irvine case.
I think somebody asked, would we want to expand it further, for lack of a word, down, like it'd be north on Jude's Ferry? My question is, Bob, can you zoom it so the other parts will zoom out maybe a little bit?
Okay, when we go up, yep, do that.
So somebody got in my ear the last couple of times about, why don't you guys ever think about, and we did this with one of the zonings years ago with Appomattox Trace, but we didn't get enough. You don't have any parks in the east. So everybody in the east says, I live in the east, but I don't go to the west to go to the park. Is there ever an opportunity for us to capture? Is that something that you got? I heard it frequently, from people who said, well, I live in District 2, District 1. I don't ever go to your library. I don't ever go to your park. I don't ever. So I'm just trying to be visionary enough. If there was enough, is there an opportunity to create some type of
8060 would be happy to have the county come in and buy it as a park, and the location would be perfect.
the loading what?
418060 Batterson.
Yeah.
They would be
think-
happy to have the county.
Yeah, I
buy
guess
that
it would.
market.
Yeah, guess what? It'd be right by the school.
I think as a county's perspective, I think in the probably future, we would look at increasing parks and adding some stuff. I don't think it's in the next 10, 15 year plan, but certainly something to look at.
So
I think-
that Parks and Rec, the committee would be well tasked with.
Yeah, I think they've got some ideas in their head about.
Well,
what they
we
wanna do
we
future-wise.
attempted to do it in Appomattox Trace. We got
Mhm.
Yeah.
a small portion out there.
Yep.
But it was never really enough to do anything with. We were thinking soccer fields or whatever at that point. But
You're talking about 41.5.
possibly it just,
Yeah.
and I think the proximity to the schools, a major thoroughfare kind of.
This land is gorgeous because I helped the church acquire part of 41.6I there. So I've been back through the woods back there. That's gorgeous.
Just something to think about. I know phase 2 of the park is, still something that is there, but if you don't start thinking about it, we think 10 years, 15 years would be here. I might not be here, but eventually there will be a need.
hopefully in the future, there'd be a opportunity for a public-private partnership of some sort that would be nice to have with either a commercial development of some sort where they can dedicate some amount of excess acreage to that. Just, I guess, seeing where that would be, but I don't know that Parks and Rec, I know they've got plans in the CIP for different types of, facilities and whatnot, increasing fields and all of that. I don't know if they have designated areas they would like to put those in though. So, worth talking about or putting down as an idea. But, okay, so I've added Old Church Road extension to the transportation as an addition for the future transportation thoroughfare plan. And that it could connect over those roads where the marker for the 2,000-foot line is, or it could connect down to Batterson.
Right.
Which I think connecting down to Batterson might be a nice little, go around. So yeah, move over there. But we can put that down as a
Future
should be
study.
added. Yeah, should be added as a future study.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll really help with Jude's Ferry and Madison too, which is traffic there is a mess from the high school.
Okay.
Should have done something a long time ago, but there were some opportunities, but I think there was a lot of opposition from one individual. Just leave it alone.
Okay. So Bob's got those additional parcels added right there across from the school. We covered 4138, right? Below
Yeah.
Jude's Ferry. So let's move over to Flat Rock area. Any questions on those that I think came up? I mean, only one we're taking, well, we've got 4117 was previously an economic opportunity, thank you.
Yeah.
Brain's not working. And the rest of them, I think from 4117A all the way back towards Dorset, those were in the gateway.
Correct.
So now we're kind of saying those should probably go to priority.
And those are boxed out like 4117B because they're residences or?
Good question. Let me look at that. Hold on.
This one doesn't even look like it's a property.
Yeah, it's a different parcel, right?
It
is.
It is,
5
yeah.
acre parcel.
So that one in particular is the cutout for the home place.
Yeah, but the ones on the left side.
But the ones on the left,
Let me look at
let's see,
this.
that's a home place too. That's right.
I think
That's-
there's one is a home place, one might be like a cemetery.
And that bottom one, I think maybe that is the cemetery.
Yeah, that
The
is.
church.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Yep.
So that's why they're cut out.
Well, the
Okay.
cutout for the
There's-
cemetery makes sense, but why for the homesteads?
Let me see, there's gotta be, I think it might be the church. Is there a church there? Is that what it is?
No, that's a house.
Oh, that is a house.
Yeah, so both of those I know are two homes. So
Okay, no. Why don't we add 17B to it then?
17B and 19D probably both should be added.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Let's
think
leave
so.
it, let's the cemetery.
Okay.
It's kind of a transition
I'm
between
just gonna write
Dorset
it
and
down.
just more retail
I can
gateway
look at that
business,
same,
right?
yeah.
Old school
Okay.
gateway business.
B
So-
and 41.
But no, you saying overall?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
What about 40?
designating it that way, we're saying it would be a better
Well, you're right there,
Use
4084.
retail, because that would be
Yes.
that'd be a lot of retail.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
So you want a history lesson, if you see where
I do.
Rocky Oak meets, right there at Anderson Highway in Dorset.
Mhm.
Mr. May had the agreement with VDOT, and that was where Dorset were realigned and all that he had the right till he died, where Rocky Ford would allow him to get through, never go out on 60 and get to his supermarket that was on the corner. And he honored it till he died. And then shortly after that, it went away.
So now you gotta take the road through.
Oh,
the
yeah,
sheds
you
to get
know,
out there.
but he, I guess things were done a little differently back then, so,
Okay. I think those were good.
That's a history
No
lesson.
Question on them.
Yeah.
I'll let.
What's the story with the parcel that has the solar or whatever on the north side of the road there?
The one,
so we had got.
Yeah, we haven't got to that yet.
I think you want
I want to history lesson on that
I
one.
think you want to take 4118 back out because that's the cemetery.
yeah.
Change 4118 to 4119D.
Oh, this one over here. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Don, you talking about where the highway signs are? Construction
Yeah.
signs are?
Yeah, I don't know the history on
I
that.
rode back there one day and looked.
Did you?
Yeah.
I'd be curious. I haven't tried.
19D is a dog.
I was not on the board when that was done, but.
See the one you don't have colored yet?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Adcock.
Okay.
So strategically thinking about this one, in the bigger picture is another concept for park because of Flat Rock
Oh, yeah.
and stuff that's in there. So that's just another piece to keep in the back of the head about if there was ever a zoning that came for it, it would be a logical ask for parkland.
So before you go off of that one, you've got 4119D is correct, but then change the 4118 to 4117B.
That's the 4117B.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, now I can go back to the map and talk. So Don, your question,
I just believe we'll move off the road.
history question
We're just
or?
gonna move.
So 4119H, we'll get back to 4119H. Where's
Let's
that?
go north.
Okay. And that's existing Flat Rock Auto at this point.
No, actually the little red hatched box to the left of it is.
So it's
No, it sits
already,
off the road.
No, that's it right there, 4119F.
that's the auto place, but right there is already split zoned.
Yes.
So they have split zoning and it's actually not correct on GIS. So
Okay.
it's kind of hard to tell you exactly what it's supposed to be.
Was it
but
partially CC?
It was partially
Partially
CC and partially I1 already. So we can remove that from EP because technically
You're talking about 19.
I'm talking about this piece right here. So you've got, which would be 19H. Yeah, see that the back is I1. They did that like 4 years ago.
So 4119H.
So we'll remove that one.
is
Sorry
split
about
zone.
that.
Well, wait a minute, so.
It says
Is
current
this in the
zoning
same
CC, but
category?
it's
See, we had,
one.
one of those six, right?
It splits
We actually put in as hard entries.
Mhm.
They're already, done and
I had learned a
been
few things.
approved.
Right, correct.
And so we included those in the picture, right? And I think at least one of those was split zone, so we had to make an adjustment.
That's
See,
gonna,
this-
that's
Yeah.
gonna
this
get
set
out
here.
now. Come down that gravel driveway.
So let me,
Here's
what
what I'm
else?
talking
Still
about.
over there. Still open.
You have.
I've been through there. It's
yeah,
nice.
That's it right there?
You know who?
Which one are you pointing to?
The whole yellow set.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mr. Cummings.
So that whole yellow set, we kind of
Oh, yeah.
figured had to be added.
I see the one that
Just
goes-
a parcel was added,
Right.
there's other ones that had been rezoned.
I don't,
So, or, were these, well, so this was done years ago,
this was in like 4 or
not
5
since
years
the
ago.
2024.
No, so it should have been pulled through.
Yep, no,
You should have gotten it. So we just need to remove it from EP essentially, because it's already done. So we don't need to worry about it.
So that is 41, what is it?
It is, yeah, is it 19?
19H, right here?
Yep, 19H. So we'll remove that one.
Oh, it came up.
Okay.
Okay. And that's gonna make the change on the
Mhm.
sheet.
Do we, and I hate to regress back there, 4176. I just want to understand that, make sure that I'm looking at it correctly. Y'all got better eyes. Bob is involved.
Where's 4170?
4176 is going to be
Back on the map?
east of Dorset Road a little bit, yeah. So go
So go the other way.
other way,
Oh, it is different.
should be right.
Right. A little further to the right, I think.
There it
Yeah.
is. Did we discuss this one?
There you go. It's right there. It should be down now.
It's an A10 property,
4176?
4176, A10, 25 acres.
I think it's
I have a
still
question.
further to the right.
Yeah.
86.
76. Should be down. Keep going down.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was down below the bottom.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's included. It's just to the bottom portion of that Willis property.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
right
So we
here.
did it.
Got it.
Okay, so let's move back north of 60 on Flat Rock to the current solar site, and then those two parcels that are Pittsburgh sites.
So is that 6C and 12A?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, those definitely should be probably EP. And the reason I'm including the big solar site is because there's a 30-year CUP contract on that. Say solar's no longer really the desired way of doing things in 20 years. I don't know. They might pull them up before the 30-year mark is up. And then you've got that very large parcel that pretty viable.
So those two right now are commercial.
No, so A10, so 41-1 is A10 with a CUP on it for solar.
Yeah, but my
You're talking about
question is,
41.
No, go
1A?
above
The big
the
parcel.
yellow line. There you go,
That
that.
big parcel.
of the total acreage we're
But
trying
these
to
two down
capture.
here you were talking about, right? They're already in this commercial.
Right, but we want to put them as economic priority because they're only general.
Right, so we're just moving them over.
So two different discussions. We're having two different
I see.
discussions.
Yeah, I saw those.
Go ahead, let them finish there.
Yeah.
All right, so. All right, let's see what's.
The only question I have, I don't have a problem that economic priority would be a great thing.
Mhm.
And we can assume that
It's
a
not going
30-year
back to
lease
it.
could be a 20-year lease, but if you start looking at the total acreage we're including to kind of
Move
get to
over.
our calculation, this represents almost, if I did my math right, 38% of the total acreages. So is it skewing our numbers when in reality, it could be a 30-year gain?
It will. It could.
So I don't,
So the question-
and guess what? I don't want it to muddy the waters. I'm just saying, we've got one of the largest parcels capturing a large percentage of the acreage that we're including, and we're including it for our math exercise. We're saying this many acres, change from this to this equals this, and you're putting 315, 316 acres in that formula that, and all that, in reality, might be 20 years or plus. And
Yeah,
if
you're
the
looking
board's
at
all
the
of a
horizon.
sudden, if the board's all of a sudden saying, wow, we got it, but that's in it, and then you're not gonna get there in the next
Yeah, I
50
It
guess.
was a toss in, I think, because Bob and I
It is,
talked
it is.
about it.
But, I kind of see it as a bit of a mixed bag. Bill, it's not in one way exactly the other, because the time frame is not specified. I mean, yes, within the next 5 years, when they look at this again, they want to see progress. They're not looking to see 15% at the end of 5 years. Of course, that's not happening. Is 20 years too far to look at all? Well, maybe not, but you're right, it's a big piece. So it wouldn't be bad to make sure we got a little cushion.
I think maybe we approach it to the group, not just this committee. I think maybe we say it's a red flag for us. And if it's 11 of us or whatever it is, and majority goes, no, don't include it. We want, make it, but let's not calculate it in a formula. It absolutely should be an economic opportunity.
Mhm.
I don't know if 20 years is a priority, or 30 years is a priority.
And I have a second comment to that too, is that with 6A, 6, 6D, there's a couple of the little ones that don't show up in there.
Mhm.
Aggregating those into this overall, if you take the north side of 6A,
Mhm.
project it straight to the west, to the bump out on the left side of 41-1, that's about where the solar line is.
It is, yeah.
Okay, now I know that just above 6A, I think is where the beacon is.
Mhm.
So that acreage from the north side of 6A to 60, if you were to take what we have colored right now, aggregate in 6A, 6, 6D, 6B, and C are in there. I think you start looking at something that then does actually set itself up
A little easier. Yeah.
to be cut. Phase one then becomes a viable 25 acre, 30 acre parcel in the front.
Mhm.
And then you have whoever it is might have an option on the back. in the
It's a lot.
future.
Right.
If I remember, it backs all the way up into Lake Shawnee,
It
It
does.
does.
and there's a lot of water down in there.
Mhm.
Yep.
Backs up back there towards Lake Shawnee. I've been back there when we had somebody doing some things in the wetlands that they shouldn't have done. And years ago, and luckily we got that.
So I think maybe we add 41, 6A, 6,
Yeah.
and 6D, and whatever those little ones are.
And my second part to that too then is that from a larger planning perspective, this is the terminus of water and sewer right now.
It is, yeah.
And so from that perspective, this becomes, if you set it up a little bit more, okay, so it's actually the beacon is to the left of 6C. But even so, you could then work around it if you bring those into it. I just think with water, sewer, and potential for the future, it sets itself up well.
So how
Well,
about
you
we,
had already kind of discussed that, Roxanne, a little bit. So Roxanne already talked about that lower part of it, you know, in a plan like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So this just augments that. It makes it even maybe more of a possibility.
so what if we add, keep 41-1 with the anticipation that maybe it's not the full parcel. Maybe there's a subdivided line at the bottom, which is really the viable part, is the bottom.
Right.
Minus the beacon area. And then we add in 41-6. And that skips 41-6A because that is, we could add it in, but that's 14 acres, but it's got a nice pond on it. So you've got some wetlands to work around right in the middle.
How about adding 6? I mean, 6 is next to Brewster's, it looks like, isn't it?
Which one? No.
What's this?
Well, you were talking about
That's
86,
that's
right?
nothing on, there's a house on the very east of that little one you just pointed at. Brewster's is 41-10, which
Yeah,
is
so-
hard to see.
Which is
Yeah,
right here.
yeah, you got the little dot on
Yeah.
it, yep.
I mean, I would think Gateway works in this area. Maybe 6A is just, it's adjacent to 6C.
6A does have,
I think
thank you for putting it, are those are the protected buffers?
No, that's natural conservation area. It's probably another 50 feet anyway.
I take it back. We can't. If that's, we can't do it. So if that's Brewster's piece right there, then 6 is already in planning.
No, it's not in planning actually, I don't think.
I don't think it is.
It is?
But still, it's better.
Yeah, because, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry, because it was the land to the left of Brewster's. wasn't it?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but I mean,
My bad.
depending on what develops on that parcel that's next to Brewster's and Sheets, it could create a nice place where you can go in the back and still do something gateway business or light industrial. So I
That's what I'm
think
Are you
thinking.
talking
it's worth keeping it
Back
as
with
is
the back.
because you can still do both.
Keep it as Gateway.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking, because it has really, really good interparcel access.
It does.
and
We
has a
would like to
signal.
encourage that.
And that
So
was a big part of the last zoning case.
And at this point,
I think
Comes off a
everything's
private road.
CC
Dan
across the
talked about
front. So
You realize it's a private road in there?
Is it?
Comes in at Sheets. It's a private road.
Long as it's internal circulation and they keep the roads maintained.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
So you wanna leave 41-6,
let's leave it.
Yeah,
as
we
is.
back.
leave it
Yeah.
out of the calculation, right?
Yeah, leave it as is and
And what
move on.
about, and
For that
41-6D is in the same, what about 41-6D? What was happening with that?
6D, we're gonna leave alone. We're gonna leave it as
6A we
gateway.
leave because it's flexible.
Yeah.
So the only things that we're really, we're gonna talk about as a big group, 41-1, which is the big piece.
Mhm.
And then 41-6C, which you've got your pointer on, and then the one below it.
Mhm.
I think, I could go either way on the one below it. That's 41-12A. That's between Landing Coats and El Cerro Azul. You could leave it as commercial because it's got road frontage and that's what they're looking for, or you could say,
Didn't that just get rezoned?
mm-mm,
That's not that piece that the dude did and they decided they're not gonna
no,
do it and they
that's
put a little
that's
market?
down by Sudsies.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's
it's
2 or
right
3
side of
down.
Sudsey's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a lot of retail. I think it works as economic priority personally. Because if you drive from the Signal all the way to Landing Coast, I mean, that's a lot of property in there for a whole bunch of retail. So,
So you're saying leave it as gateway or leave private?
no, I'm saying switch it to be more
Priority.
clear about, because I think when you do economic priority on adjoining parcels, you're also encouraging that prospective business owner to look at purchasing adjacent parcels and growing what they're doing. Like that's what we've talked about, like they establish a business, but they're also seeing next to them the future land use of economic priority. And if they have a good experience with that, and because we're so welcoming in Powhatan, they would then be like, oh, this other parcel has the same in the future land use plan, and it would give me another way to get back out onto Route 60, or it would give me interparcel connectivity over to Sheets and Brewster's.
So we're saying 41-6C would go to leave it as.
Priority.
Keep zooming a little.
Yeah, so we can see
And I
25
think
acres.
the one
21
right there that Don's pointing at the bottom one, 12A,
Yeah.
I think that one, if we do leave it, I'm just looking at it as a holistic now. You've got 4160.
You can see the existing use too, because it spills over
Yeah.
to 6C, so having those be
One
adjoining
big
parcels.
piece, I'm just thinking that could be a nice little,
It's actually total acreage is, I just lost it.
Those three parcels.
9.6 and 21.8.
That's for 30
Probably
acres.
30 acres, 32 acres.
Which could matter, especially if you're stuck with the front, really being where the good opportunity is because the back is solar. You might be like,
Bob,
wow, I
can you
need
turn on
additional
your
land. What am I gonna do?
EP ones so that we see which ones are yellow or whatever, like that, gold.
Yep.
Make sure we're already,
So I'm gonna throw a wild card out while he's doing that. So
okay, that's good.
even though it wouldn't come into the calculations, 20 should be EP too, even though it's Alcero in that development.
You tell me down here?
It's an outlier, yeah.
It's in terms of how your planning goes, from a comp plan perspective,
It's 12D.
it wouldn't show up in our table, which is fine, but it still should show up as EP. Because that shopping center is pretty old in its life cycle,
So
so
it would show up in our table because all the EPs are in the table, right?
For the
Well,
existing ones.
he still has to stick it on the spreadsheet to pick it up.
You'd have to, yeah. But we
Pick it
know,
up, but you could,
you wouldn't have as much
So-
benefit. But it-
So you're talking about,
This one right there.
that, yeah,
yeah, but, and to move it into what?
EP.
So into the I-1 focus.
EP.
so that's Dewey Stroud's old property and his son has it now. It's got storage facility, I think.
Well, and I have another,
It's got a bunch of stuff.
I have another argument why.
Haircut
So-
cookies.
The other argument too is that as you look at a density transect and you have that high intensity retail fronting 60 and you have the CC in the back, and then you have this I1, which even though I1 in a lot of people's minds is higher intensity of development in terms of land intensity, it's not. It tends to actually be less intense in terms of the development of the land. So the way the development transect wants to go is that high density, the medium density, and then the light density. So we take that one out and just make it uniform with this medium density of economic priority. It defines a logical transition into the gap.
I'm in agreement. I don't mind. I think it's a good idea.
I like it.
Because this is a future plan. They'll leave non-conforming until they go, well, they're conforming at the current place, but.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they won't have to do anything, but it would give them the vision.
Is that
Exactly.
41.2D? Is that all it's at?
12D.
Well,
12.
it's also right across from Rocky Oak, so it
And
continues.
back to what you said, Roxanne, I guess we would have open dialogue on the whole 41
-1.
slash how we would want to handle that. I think, I'm not sure what you suggested, maybe not a bad idea, but I think we should at least have dialogue on it.
Yeah, show that whole block.
I
to
think you
the
gotta
work
hit
group,
escape
right?
it.
And just say,
Almost lost
here's your
it.
thoughts.
I think with that
41
that maybe
that's
isn't
like 3
as
acres.
good of a,
Yeah.
It's not much.
No,
because it's small. Without 41.1 in there, it's the whole thing kind of falls apart.
In reality, most of those businesses in there will be, they're not gonna be forever there, 100 years, 50
Right.
years. They're gonna be expanding or finding other locations.
that's at the crossover too. So
And it's at the
from
crossover.
EP, you have that existing crossover.
And you reduce the retail-like traffic from being right there when you already have it all coming quarter of a mile down east.
Yep.
Yeah.
We also don't want to do future land use planning that's strip zoning.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the no-no of Hull Street that nobody wants. So just, even if we're just creating these transitional zones on a future land use plan by shading parcels, it's at least shows some thought that we're trying to put in gateway, which is flexible, to transitional, which is jobs. I wouldn't describe it as how dense it is like Chris did. I would say it's jobs.
Right.
People aren't going to fight with you about it being jobs.
Well, and I think.
And then it's adjacent to residential, which are people that need jobs. So I think the transitions work. It's just a matter of being sensitive to those adjacent residential uses, making sure we're not doing something that's really impactful. But like Billy said, the back by Lake Shawnee is all wetlands and it's supposed to be a solar farm for the next 30 years. So we didn't create any of those challenges. We're just saying, hey, the front is a great place across from Rocky Oak to
Right.
do, a transitional, jobs oriented
Like industrial.
medical offices like I want in front of our neighborhood, like take all those parcels, buy them, and you've got enough to do 30 acres of urgent care and other things that would be in a great location. So just another place you could do that.
Can someone tell me why the old board went to the strips style of,
Come on in, Liggett.
Really?
So I don't understand the question. I'm supposed to be the historian here, I guess.
like a strip style mall-like buildings versus independent building style?
Well, again, one of the things we wanted to do was interparcel access was because, and we did it years ago, was we did a crossover study that eliminated the amount of crossovers you can have, keep traffic moving. So then you encourage combinations of properties to have interparcel access. So you have one ingress point versus, and that one egress and ingress point versus multiple.
Actually, I think he's asking a different question. So you're asking why the retail strips like where El Cerro Azul is
Yeah.
or where Tractor Supply is, why those developed as opposed to something different.
That's what makes it look like Chesterfield or Henrico.
Yeah, so that's on the development side. That's the financial side of someone coming in and wanting to do a project for an economic gain. That when you parcel out the buildings, you max out the building you can do, then you parcel it up for the rents, and then you can make your economic spreadsheet work to your best benefit to capture the greatest square footage costs that you can send back to someone renting it from you.
Keep in mind,
Kind of like
a
where
lot-
Henry was.
Yeah,
But keep in mind, so Henry's and they also sold and the Kubota place, all those were done long before there was a ton of
Yeah.
zoning and planning. It was all the whole 500 feet, along 60, you could just stick a business in there. So, because the Tractor Supply, the tractor Kubota place was a Ford dealership.
it was.
Many. And then, so all that was done long before there were a ton of ordinances put in place that, for lack of a better word, tried to guide development or I hate to use the word control. So,
to kind of follow on Bill and kind of look, there's one thing, there's the history and what's already in place out there. And then there's a question about how things look going forward and what kind of planning we want to have, when they're, I think Bill's making the point that planning that makes us look even more like Chesterfield overtly is really not anything we want to be trying to do. So if in here somehow we can get this notion that we're going to try to avoid, even in commercially developed properties, we're going to try to avoid this thing we're slapped up against the road. I mean, and especially if you leave some visual buffer is probably pretty important. And maybe obviously was not on the radar way back, but it could be in the radar.
not 30 years.
It's on the radar now. It's a work in progress, actually.
Right, and I think that's an important one, an important one that the committee to emphasize and give a little extra, push to. And the public's, it's an easy sell for the public.
Yeah, well, and to Don and Bill, and to Chris's point earlier, I got a phone call from somebody and talking about the map exercise. They've been listening. And they said, so you're just going to stick, light industrial all over the place. And I said, so why does that scare you? And what I explained to them, the intensity, which you described, the intensity of a light industrial business that sits back off the road, it provides jobs, it doesn't have the amount of good jobs, doesn't have the amount of traffic going in and out that a retail establishment will do. So while we're just trying to get a balance here, because you certainly want to have happy with CC blanket zoning, as you call it. It's an education that we must talk about in my eyes. Because if you don't, then you'll have this misnomer, all you're just sticking the biggest manufacturing facility in the world back here.
That's right. And I think that's part of the job of the CWG to get that conversation moving out to the public.
Yeah, I'm glad they called me. Because hopefully they understood it a little better and they encouraged them to come to the
And
meeting.
I don't think business friendly is having a future land use designation that you could pretty much do whatever you want as long as it's a business. And it doesn't help Roxanne because she's trying to figure out where the best place to go is. Because then if the people do it in the locations that we've identified based on our knowledge of the county, they're going to have, the right use and the right location. It's going to be a transitional zone between residential and potentially retail type commercial, which works for jobs in both ways. Like we keep talking about, you've got a place to go for lunch, you've got a place to live, it's all close to each other, like all that works, and that works better for them as the parcel owner. And then if we have, I really think like picking one parcel, I really don't like that. Like, because it's like, well, you've got this whole area and you say, well, we're going to make this one parcel EP. That's very a strange way to do a future land use plan. But if you can find some parcels around it, you start to see an opportunity to sort of grow that into, a handful of parcels. I think that business owner, if they're successful, is going to be all about growing the business and having adjacent unused land versus like, hey, there's an open parcel on, Hall Street that's $2 million and it's 2 acres. And I'm going to buy it. I'm going to squeeze it in and I'm going to build retaining walls around it to avoid the wetlands, and then there's no expansion. But if there's 4 unused parcels sitting there that are 4 times the amount of land the gentleman wants to develop or the lady, it's like, great, that's the place I want to locate because there's all sorts of expansion capabilities. And those are the kind of businesses we want.
You're not getting on
I'll take these then.
I think we just need to stay away from strip style.
It's not as favorable, I will say, from the stuff that we see coming in, it's not as favorable as what we used to see. It was a very, I don't know, what you call it, 2000s, 90s kind of style of stuff. You don't see it as much.
Yeah.
And then the light industrial type of stuff that comes in that has condo units to it, from my perspective, is much better looking. I mean, usually and honestly, like go on Carter Gallier, there's a couple buildings there that technically are multiple units in one, but the way we've seen it is 2 companies will come in and just take 2 of, or it should be 4 units, they take it all. So it's really one big warehouse to them.
Does it fit the county look?
Yes, and of course, light industrial does not have to go with the pattern design book, but ones we've had recently all look really nice. So
You made me that had occurred to me though, is that these economic priorities should be part of pattern.
oh, thanks for adding that. Great. We'll put that on the here. Chris said.
Or if you want to dumb it down more, then the EPs that have direct frontage to 60 should be.
That is a Ligon That's the Ligon problem. I'm gonna look at him and be like, okay, well.
I mean, I think you could argue that if they're frontage
If they're
parcels,
frontage, I
they
think that's
should.
very
Well, just like infrastructure, there's things to do because we did this. So instead of like, we should do this, and then we figure out like, what are the other things?
There are sensitivities too. If you're off the road with a light industrial parcel,
Yes.
and you don't have visibility. I remember, and I won't use the business, it was a body shop that was going into a light industrial area. And when the architectural group that was there, they finished, and the poor guy was, I was amazed. I'm like, this is a light industrial area. He's not building this on 60, but you're costing him so much money to dress this building up. It's a metal building.
I think if
It
it's
paints
not,
cars.
I think if it's not road frontage, I think we should probably consider being a little lighter on it.
Yeah.
And if it is road frontage, I think we should consider extra setbacks and buffering versus actually making them do hard material that's going to cost like brick and all that. So, if you can put in enough buffering there that you don't really see it, why does it matter?
Pattern book
Yeah.
or enhanced.
So just for I guess the edification, years ago, Bill, as we were working through trying to improve what we called the requirements for the development,
With the buffer planning.
there was,
Exactly right.
you used to could have a wall that ran, and we got into this with Walmart, that could run 200 feet long and never have a break or any high break or any offset or anything. It looked like crap. So we put standards in that said you only could have so many feet of wall before you had to either change the color or offset it to where it just broke and it just wasn't this massive, material. And all those standards that were put in place were to try to keep from doing what was done and create us into the Hall Streets of the world and,
West Broad Street. West Broad Street.
old West Broad Street, not even the new West Broad Street.
Good point, Kyle.
Yeah, the old one.
Related to this is, so, Roxanne and I chatted a little bit about this. The question of the economic prosperity priority area, so it's all set, it's all planning for I-1. And I mean, one of the big upsides of that is, okay, so it's carved out for this purpose, it was carved out with a reason. So you don't want to really be entertaining applications for something that doesn't fit that thing. They can make that consistent with comprehensive plan. All good. Now, that being said, there are other parcels here that are still in the gateway that still, it might be certainly advantageous to us to allow them as they currently are, right, to go into I-1. And
Yep.
I-1, if they find it and then it fits it fits the use, it's all the good as far as we're concerned. And, we don't want to close the door on it, but they're open for other things. But these, a separate thing, right, or
Targeted.
And we don't want the reverse. We don't want this, to not become I-1, but to become,
Yes.
Gateway.
shopping centers, strip shopping centers.
And I described this to one individual recently about, so let's take a brewery. Today, there are many of them sitting in light industrial, having facilities. Are they really, while they're manufacturing something, they're actually retail operations. So that's a kind of description of what could be back to you saying, it's really a gateway, but it's really, and so this is okay putting that here. It would fit in both combinations. Would you want to in reverse? We'll have no on each part.
Well, we wouldn't want to close it out because of that we limited I-1 to the priority areas.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. And all the better if they're buffered.
Let's go west.
Go west, young man.
Go west. Wait,
Hard stop at
We officially have an hour, so let's move west.
I gotta ask one question here. So
Sure.
you see this long strip here, this 41G 19?
19G, yeah.
19G?
Uh-huh.
So right now, in the 2024 tax parcel picture, it has the 0 acreage attached.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Which means it's not in the calculation until we put
Correct.
acreage in there. So
Yep.
now, okay, and if we go and ask GIS to go find this, we'd possibly be here till May, but we never do it. Now, if you want me to, it's easy for me to calculate a pretty decent.
I would say you can just measure it
You
out.
can measure it out. When you do it, stick it in there.
Well, you got a measuring tool, measure the acreage.
Yes.
Drag it.
Just,
So go ahead and do that.
Yes.
Put that in there.
yes. 'Cause
Thank you.
we did- And I could look it up in the records too. And I
I'm gonna
don't
do that.
know.
And anything
So
else
just-
we do.
Because it says,
There may be a couple odds and ends that we
It
have.
looks like
in here,
8
just
acres,
follow
throw it
that.
down.
Just make sure Jamie's giving an assessment. We're good.
Right.
exactly, we did. Somebody-
Well, we don't need,
Everybody
we
would
don't
want
need,
that
it. Yeah,
assessment.
we don't
0
need,
acres.
for our calculation, we don't need any separate assessment because it's gonna automatically do the projection based on what we have. So,
Yeah.
For us, it's just a rough estimate.
got it. Yep, exactly. All right.
And for those who may be listening to this later, just because a parcel is delineated as economic priority does not change your taxes. It'll only change if you ever apply and get rezoned. Okay?
Okay, so we go west.
Don't want
I
people
think our
think
next area.
that grabbing their taxes.
I keep saying that every
Okay,
meeting.
so we're through the gap around here to
Oh,
30.
can we go back real
Where's
quick?
the-
Yep.
So is that red lane coming down?
Yeah,
So can we go look across on the south side?
4038.
Yep.
Yeah, and I had identified that as well. And I don't think I added into this list for Bob, but it's something of a conversation. because-
Actually, 38 and 35 from
I
my,
think 38, 67K.
I wouldn't do it. I would not do either one of those because those are smack in the middle of the gap.
Well, so
I mean, look, here's the story. There is plenty of advocacy that says leave the gap as a gap for good reason and they want it. They're not gonna like it if we into that gap area. Now, if you have to go to the gap area in order to get to what we're trying to achieve, we have to go there. If we can get what we need without going to the gap, which I suspect we are going to be able to, I think that's not something we should put on the table here at this point. I'm just saying, you do what you want, but you're gonna fight another fight if you get into the gap in any serious way.
while I agree with you with the argument, I don't think as many people understand the gap as you think they do. I think they see the development along there already. They don't understand what the gap is. That parcel, to me, is big enough to do some economic priority on. I'm not a proponent for going to 40, 43B and 43A and all the smaller parcels, but that's 63
acres.
plus 10 other acres, which is parcel 4067K. All that's is 60 some acres, you know, of property, 73 acres of property.
You know, there's a big future ahead of this building. And it's maybe one that doesn't include us, okay? So that might still be there for the future. It's not here at the moment. All I'm saying is this, you know, you can make the argument that, well, people really don't see the gap or understand the purpose of the gap. So once you go down this road, those people will learn about the gap in spades.
And I have no problem.
And it'll be all, once the public gets their eye on this one, they're gonna understand exactly what that meant.
There's probably a bigger, that parcel has the opportunity not to disturb anybody. It disturbs no one. When you look at what's around it, it doesn't have any neighborhood around it. It does, you could expand it on out. But I think that parcel creates economic priority. It screams economic priority. Does it have infrastructure on it? To Mr. Bradbury's point, and several who asked about it, it has the opportunity for, and you know what? We'll put it in front of the group is what I would suggest.
I was gonna say, if we can, let's start and just say, part of the bigger group's discussion with more people at the table. And, you know, 63 acres is a lot. Not every manufacturing and, you know, light industrial business that comes through needs water sewer hookup. They don't need that much. And if the well's, you know, capable of being brought on there, it's one of the things we could also in the future be like, hey, if water and sewer comes through here, you will hook to it. And but if it doesn't come, you're knowing that you're buying this, doing something without any capability of water and sewer.
Well, I'm just gonna throw, and I mean, I have to do this on the full committee. You know, when we go through these exercises, we put these things together and are be part of the conference plan. I mean, the question is, how widely do we wish the public to support what we're doing? And I mean, to me, you're in a lot better shape if you're able to make progress and you're not, you know, flying against the public sentiment on particular items. You know, it just makes life better for everyone, makes the comprehensive plan better for everybody, and a feeling that it was done in a proper way that was considering things. Now, I think this is one in the category that things pretty questionable on the head. And I'll have to discuss this in full committee, no problem. But I can tell you right now, I would have to, you know, I would get pushback on this. And I think this pushback would be likely to spread. And then and it's not a question of overcoming. People have a reason that they're pushing back and that they want this to be there. And it's part and parcel of what, you know, we're talking about here about when you drive down the highway and you see an area like this that is not got much of anything going on in the way of commercial development. It's a very different picture than what you find Chesterfield County.
We're not saying commercial development.
It's one parcel. Why would we pick out one parcel to make?
Okay, I'll go into the next steps of why though. So with this, there's no green hatching on it. There is an existing crossover with a traffic signal. There is greater than 50 acres. There is enough room because of the parcel shape, especially if you add 67K into it, to have adequate buffering around the perimeters for it. It's within the 2,000 feet. And keeping in mind that we are talking about with economic priority, it is not becoming retail or commercial, which I agree from that perspective in terms of preservation of the gap. You've got other developments in there. Royal, for example, is an I-1 use in the gap, completely appropriate in my mind in the way that it looks and the intensity of development. And in fact, probably a little too intensely developed when you look at the back of the parcel.
Yeah, but this isn't for existing businesses.
But I'm not right. And I'm just throwing that out as an example because he's a great steward of the community and he is a great steward of the property that he is on. I feel that that is got the same potential, but that crossover is absolutely critical, even for a lower intensity use that needs to be able to get in and out of there. It's just, that's why it sets itself apart from any of the other parcels And I don't know that that's the only ones I had on my radar because of that crossover. Because I looked at it from preservation and there's nothing on it that shows up from that perspective, and kind of all the way around just says, if someone was coming in here and wanted to do a light industrial clean project that was lower intensity because it's not on water and sewer, this one would be the one that they would want to go to.
You gotta remember, Royal came in 50 years ago when there was not a water and sewer in this county.
I understand, but the type of use that he is,
Yeah, no.
as the, in fact, he
So-
may,
It could be similar across the road.
Yeah.
Someone could come in there understanding like Mr. Royal did 50 years ago, that there's nothing there and he's gonna have to work off of a well and blah, blah, blah. They could come in there and do the same thing.
Well, most of his employees go out every day.
Right.
exactly.
Right, and they're not there, and it's just an office there, basically. So I think it warrants, because I want to be, good steward of your time today and get this finished.
Sure.
I think it warrants a conversation in the bigger group for
Okay.
Sounds
for
good.
debate.
Mhm.
So I've got it down, I've circled it, and I said, I'm going to say this is something we should point out as a topic on Tuesday.
Okay.
So, okay, so let's move
Enough
west.
that long.
Is it the only parcel in the gap?
That's the only parcel in the gap.
So there's only one parcel. Okay. Just wanted
To your
say
point-
that on tape.
Is that spot voting? I don't see that.
Well, it's land use, right? It's not zoning, but it's.
I personally think it's against the comp plan.
Pardon?
I think it's against the comp plan, goes
Correct.
against the comp plan.
It does now.
Because it's in the gap.
Okay, so let's go west and talk about.
39.95.
Okay, so we're at Academy Road. No, we're
Not quite.
near
We're behind
Academy
that.
Road,
I
right?
call this one behind that, but
This bar?
Who owns that one? I can't remember off the top of my head. Hold on one second.
which one is the call I got? What's going on behind?
Oh, Duluth,
that? Just a
okay.
future land use plan.
Yeah.
43.8.
Leave it or take it.
2 minute head, Mr.
You want to see what's under it?
Thank you, sir.
So technically, you've got a bunch of parcels in the front that, they're CC, but they could be light industrial, basically. You got Napa,
Napa,
then you've got the rental place.
kind of a farm looking road with a little wooden shed there.
Yeah, so that, let me go in.
That's,
What's going on in the map
who's
here?
got that grandiose plans
Down the hill there. Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
But we're talking about 39.100 and 39.95.
Uh-huh.
Yes. So Napa's got the big parcel, and then right next to it is what, 101, I think? That is where the equipment rental place is. So
101.
currently,
No, I think this is the equipment rental place. Isn't it?
no, that's the,
That's, it was the car sales place.
Thank
Oh,
Yeah.
cross.
Cross,
Okay,
yeah. and then on the corner, of course, is the gas station.
I mean, Napa had all that land behind it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got a house on 99. And of course, the other ones are Gateway. Reason I thought the 95 is an interesting parcel. If you were to come in, get a entrance off of 60 right there on 100 and go in there, that's how many acres?
Well, 39.95 is 43.8.
43 acres. That's a
And 100
nice little
100 is 5
chunk of
acres,
acreage.
4.6, right? Owned by the same people.
I would almost say if we're gonna do it, we switch 39-100. Well, we keep 39-100 as EP and then add 39.99, so that you've got a nice little block in the front.
Which one are you talking about? You need
So we would add this one.
39.
Yeah, you've already got the 195,
Yeah,
so you
so
just
add that one
add the
between each step.
99, so that there's a nice little block in the front.
So what, this is all gateway business.
Mhm.
So if we're using EP as a transitional zone between retail,
Side.
food line, shopping center,
It
out
is.
parcels, all of this, and this, which is all low density residential. What do we do with those 6 parcels? That would be my question, not
Right there,
to.
39.96.
Just square it out.
Yeah, you could do it all one. That
Because
way
it's
you're-
transitional between residential and commercial. And you wouldn't want commercial stream down towards the gap there. 'Cause-
That's the gap right there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
filling the
right
gap.
there.
Which part, where's the gap end? What is
At County Road is what we always were told.
here?
Let me tell you.
Because you've got three retail businesses there on.
Well, you've already got, I mean, yeah, the current comp plan stops the gap, obviously, at that water line.
Can that be serviced? Does anyone know about the system? Whether-
The water and
Yeah,
sewer?
you got that's,
One
I mean,
second.
if the Food Line Shopping Center is, I would think,
It's a food line shopping. That's why I had always, well, I thought we used County Road, but because of the stopping of the service.
it's inside the service district here, which is.
Oh, yeah, there it
that's
is.
the blue line.
that's the blue line. So that really the service district should be here. No, yeah, instead of those residential lots. What's,
So,
that's probably
I
because
would
of
say
this.
yes to squaring it up.
They probably have
as
water
well,
sewer in there,
because
don't they?
You've got that existing crossing.
That's the
so
little
you've
white
got the
buildings,
access
the little
point
bit,
to
little
serve all of
businesses
it.
and little white.
so why don't we
buildings,
add
like dentist office.
that should be south.
3999,
You know what
Yeah.
I think?
3998A.
Probably has water and sewer, right?
What's the name of it?
98,
Oh, what's it called, Jimmy Fallon, with all the condos and stuff?
98 and 97.
You had to ask me, and now it brains.
I go down there all
Do they
the
have
time.
water and sewer, do you know?
No,
They don't.
no, they don't.
They're not septic.
They're on a well and something, yeah.
Yep.
So
Because they're in the
3998A,
service district,
98,
According to the blue line.
Mhm.
and
But they
then
were
97.
far enough down at the time from Food Line where the line is, that it was going to be a burden to, an economic burden to the
Yeah.
development.
And that's all
And they
down,
had the ability based on what the wells perked at.
really, that's all downhill towards the creek. That's a terrible spot to try to bring sewer service because you'd have to collect it and pump it. It's
That,
too far
well, yeah,
down.
and I was just talking about water, but yes, from
It's too
sewer
far
side
down the
too.
hill from Food Line for it to be connected easily, so.
Yep.
Plus head loss, so. I mean, I think where we're talking about doing EP makes sense, but anything east of that, it's clearly in the gap.
Okay, so I added those three, so 3997, 39.
Are we already there?
3999,
99, 98A, 98, and 97.
right? So they're on the list here.
I mean, realistically, if we're
So
gonna use it as a
that's-
transition, you have to block that whole thing out.
Let's go back to your map. Let's move to
And
the,
the thing is, if somebody, you know,
That- yeah,
if somebody
that
has this
one
and this
for the
parcel
priority. There you
and
go.
they're successful, like, why would they not be interested in these parcels? Like, isn't that the
Could you
point?
flip back over to that real quick?
To expand.
spreadsheet.
You know,
Oh, the
flip over to your
spreadsheet, yeah.
spreadsheet, yeah, I
sure,
apologize. Did I miss 98 on there? Because I see 97, 98A,
so
99.
you need a 98 with nothing behind it as well, 3998.
39.
That was currently not in the priority,
Correct.
Yeah, we need to add it.
so 3998.
Yes, sir. Cool.
So we haven't added 100, you were talking about adding the ones in the front, correct?
We did. He's got them.
Yeah, they're in there already because they're already colored. You can go back now. Thank you.
Does that make more sense to everyone?
Yeah, I think having a block is probably better because if you're gonna have some,
So you're not singling one
Commercially.
personnel or another based on current land use.
and also as you get towards Academy intersection, having some potential CC stuff and then having, less dense stuff for I-1, you'd rather just have all less dense and then get to the density when you get to the intersection. So I think that's plenty.
And this whole idea of like having service district down here by Hunter's Mill and Woodflower, that's not a good idea. I don't know that that's our decision what the service district is, but that should never be
I don't know.
the service.
I don't know the premise behind how those
Yeah,
are drawn.
It's in the gap. It's outside of,
So can we
Yeah,
go
they
to
should
the
be
west a
changed.
little bit?
That was done a long time.
but if you could water and sewer that, or if you could have a developer come in and extend water and sewer with Aqua Virginia to those parcels, that would service all the other retail on Academy Road, which
Okay.
could be beneficial to other business owners that don't have the, 30
So
acres to work with.
anything between Academy all the way to, let's see where we're going. No, Scottville Road and then
Well,
beyond.
Maidens is,
No, maybe a little farther.
So I want to ask a little bit, I'm glad Lincoln's here, I guess if we're looking on, I guess it'd be the
what's that, Mitchell? Oh, that's Mitchell there. Yeah. Okay.
13, Scottville, all that side. is that all with the, with the group, I guess would be
South Side.
Village
South Side,
south of
correct.
16.
The south side, isn't all that being studied with village overlay?
Yeah, but we've kind of put that all on hold until we get this done. So we have 3 or 4 different things going at once, so we just kind of,
Okay.
So this one bothers me, obviously, 2716 as gateway business.
Yeah,
I know I made a big deal out of one gateway business parcel like 2 weeks ago, so I'm going to throw that one out there. 2716 has a lake on it that drains into a stream that drains into a lake.
so you're talking about taking it out of the gateway.
Well, I mean, it's almost entirely streams and wetlands. I mean, I don't see how that's a good place for gateway business. I know 2718 was rezoned because that's behind my house in full disclosure. So I need counseling for this part of the map. But I get the rest of it, but as you come down the hill, that's like the entrance to the courthouse to me. There's a certain amount of view shed opportunity there with those lakes that are all privately owned and maintained, I believe. But to say the future land use there is any
Click on
form of
2716.
really throws me
That
off.
belongs to the Knuckles.
I mean, I know the history behind that, but it
Yeah,
just,
that's
That's
all.
Bobby
I
Yates.
think you grabbed the green there.
That's Bobby Yates' product. Yeah, I got it. That's Bobby Yates used to live there. Mr. Yates.
I mean, it's single family
Yeah,
residential now,
Lakers
so,
Manage this LLC.
I mean, if you ever had a place where we didn't have development on both sides of Route 60, that's got lakes on both sides, so that'd be the place.
So you're suggesting we take it out of
Gateway business.
gateway and just leave it as a rural?
Yeah. Full disclosure, it's close to my house, but I
Well, no, I
just,
mean, a little bit of
it's got a
movement,
lake on it.
some movement in that direction is.
And I think it
is
is.
useful to be able to report.
So I'm going to back up for 1 second and play devil's advocate, just so you have duck and cover. Why was it put into gateway business? Let's look at it that way too.
I think if you zoom out, everything from Food Lion to there was put into gateway business. And at one point, this was gateway business in Branchway Springs. And then they figured out they could make more money turning it into residential lots. And so now it's all built out as residential.
Can you go out even
I think
further
that
and
was-
let me see down? There you go. Perfect.
Didn't feel like he could make more money. I think he just realized that he needed to turn it.
I
he
think
needed
it's
to
just
turn
a,
it.
it's a
Which I think is a
continuation of
success
stuff
from a
on
land use planning standpoint, because it's,
And I know the house, the farm
I
was
don't
close
think
to
it was
road, sold, and we
strategic.
go down.
and they're going for 200,000
I think it was
lots.
an
So I don't
empty
think
zone.
anyone who
in
has
between, and
party
they
with a
just
Goodwin
continued it
property
on.
made it all right. I mean,
I mean, that's,
No,
you've given me the perspective I needed.
And that's no,
I don't
Whether
think
you
we're
are right or
losing
not,
anything by losing
I hate to
that.
say it,
But I also
no, I know, but
I
I'm
don't
just saying
think there's any larger story
they were able to
why.
create
No.
a use
I think
for
it-
it.
I think it was
That's all
part
I
of
was
it.
curious
Yeah,
about.
that's what I think.
Expand the
you
neighborhood.
asked him that question.
So
Where your retail gonna come from?
Yeah,
I think,
yeah, I don't mean all right financially, I'm just saying that from a land use standpoint, it turned out all right, from what I see.
This picture here, was already good at that across.
That's good one, like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, that's the thing. So what you've got right here is the main branch of Fine Creek development here.
Yes, sir.
That is. That's Fine Creek, all right.
It is.
Right out, it's into the desert.
so if you go back to the parcel that we're talking about, I think
Excuse me.
Chris and I just were saying that it looked kind of like it wasn't strategic. It was more like there was a empty space and they just continued it down. So
That's what I was saying. I
losing
think,
it really doesn't hurt anything. So I think we can say 2616 move back to rural or A10,
We go
you know.
back to 10, 20.
and you have to remember,
27,
we used to have a
27,
sort of a strip zoning look at this, and I think the last comp plan amendment, we got a lot more refined. We
Right.
looked for nodes. So this is part of an important node. It's kind of down the hill by the
Straight
lake and the
part of it.
wetlands. So it's just, I think they went a little too far.
Yeah,
That's 27, 16, what I'm saying.
yeah, 2716 will move to A10.
I wasn't on board with this.
So let's go back to your 123 and 4 now. I think.
It was.
Yeah, so the parcels,
I'm not sure.
Were you looking for
I can
squares?
imagine, but
I was looking
now's the
for
right
kind
time
of
to make that change.
For
in
people.
between intersections and unused larger parcels to add together, which those two kind of fit it, but at the same time, if it doesn't fit with what the village looks like it'll expand to be, or 60 wants to be at that area, it's not gonna kill anything. I will say, coming out this far, it can be very hard to get industrial stuff out this far.
Can I want to make a reverse comment. Have you ever been down Mitchell Road past the transfer station?
Not very far past it, but
Can we just zoom in on that a little? I mean, there's some cleared land there on 26-111, and it's right next to the transfer station. It is not, there's the potential, whether it's just those two parcels or some of the stuff on Mitchell Road.
Talking about down that long road off of 13.
Yeah, where the transfer station is.
Yeah.
No, he's on the other side about the train.
Right, see, there's,
On the transfer station,
and then
okay.
as you go past there, back in this area, those parcels and these parcels, I was just kind of interested. I don't know the history on Mitchell Road.
Mitchell's built it
This is 9.5 acres here.
back to their farm.
Okay.
9.5 acres there.
Mitchell's built it back to their farm
So what if-
originally,
Originally years
and then
ago.
it got improved.
what if
That's only
instead of
2.6. This
crossing
whole thing's about
Mitchell,
11 and change.
we looked at 26-107? Because if you're gonna conglomerate some large parcels together for that purpose to give buffering to all those things around it,
Yep.
maybe 107 might be, you've got a little backing up to whatever is that Archie's Way? Whatever that is.
Yes.
You've got enough there to buffer against those residential areas.
I would say it's at least an argument for 26-123 and 26-124. My problem with 26-107 is some of the additional adjacencies
Yeah.
in the back. And that's where,
This far.
even if you don't add this as EP, just having the EP on the other two parcels sort of moves the ball in that direction, because we don't have any real EP in the courthouse, right? We don't have
No,
large
I think-
undeveloped tracts of land where somebody could put a business in the courthouse area. This is it, these two parcels for this new future land use idea.
Well, I don't think the courthouse overlay doesn't run on that side, right?
Right, but it's close enough, based on the location of
It is
it.
a closer.
It's within walking
I would
distance.
take all three of those with the two you have, make 5 of them so that
So what,
it would have access out to Mitchell.
which ones?
I've been studying this. I mean, I'm not sure. I would want it to be a lot bigger, but I would want to show something there.
Well,
I guess
Yeah,
that's why.
well, if you zoom in on it, the parcel that Roxanne brought up, the two to the south of it, the squares, 119 and 120 and 107A.
Oh, that's a good one.
You put all three of those in, leave the two you have.
They're small, but it gives you access to Mitchell Road from the standpoint, and it's more than two parcels, which I just don't like picking one parcel.
Can
It
you go
just
back
seems
in
like-
on
There are
that?
a lot of other- Yeah, when you get to 107 itself done, there are a lot of other problems associated with that parcel. It's a huge
I don't
parcel.
think we're talking about touching that.
Yeah, we don't have-
So
that's the
19
problem there.
So 26-119 and then 120
It's
Can
probably
you zoom
7.
in on 111? Well, go
and
ahead,
then
I'm sorry.
26-107A.
Get your- Yeah, I was curious about these two as well.
26.
Yeah, so
25.
the idea though of staying on the east side of Mitchell as a divide line for that transition. Yeah,
Are you talking about 111?
111. What size is 111? Because
I think it's 9 and change.
9 and change.
9.5.
I would wonder about the size of it because of the shape of it, to be honest, Don. From a development perspective, it might be a little challenging.
Well, like you said, if you add 119 and 120 and then it's got gateway business in front of it,
Yeah,
it
you
kind of it tells the
redefine.
story.
Yep.
You know,
We're
that
being consistent.
if you're looking for establishing a business on 30 plus acres in the courthouse area, where are you going to do that?
Yep.
With water and sewer.
Yep.
Where else do we have? I think we have something near the fairgrounds coming up that we'll look at as well.
Yeah.
But-
So you want to we want to add in here
I've got
26-107A, 26-119, and 26-120.
Bingo.
No, maybe we should put it back there, put it. No.
Well, I'm selfish.
They've got one of
Just joking, people who are
They've
listening.
got one of those.
Oh, God.
So
And they were
Is this on the
problem.
spreadsheet?
Sure, or I'm
Well, I'm going to get them in there because it'll give us the idea what the calculation is.
okay, so then add 26-119
It's a buffer, so I
26,
think
120.
doing something in the land use plan that recognizes
And
that's a
then
buffer to
26,
residential makes sense.
107A. Perfect.
And if it's successful, then maybe the gateway business in front of it becomes industrial and it grows. I mean, at least it plants the seed that there's a possible, economic priority opportunity there near the courthouse within walking distance of Cloud Creek Park and the rescue, fire station and everything else that's beneficial to a business owner.
So what's 77G and 70? So you're on
Says
the-
property.
Moving right along.
Is that I thought 77 and 77D was the up.
There's also a
Can I-
different too.
Oh.
Two
I have a question, I'm sorry, before we go that far. What's going on with that?
109?
Yeah.
Anything?
Are you asking what's planned for it, or why
Well,
is it?
it seems to be landlocked with no roadway frontage, and I was like, why is that gateway business? I don't follow that. And it drains straight into a creek. Like, huh?
I don't know. There's not an easement on it though.
So
I don't know.
what's in front of that?
At that point.
So that would be, let me look it up.
Yeah.
Houses, and then you've got, the business 26 dash, what is that, 105 or something, 116? I don't know what that says right now.
Is that where
To the
they,
right?
I don't.
No, down, he's talking about 109, but so in front of it,
pull it, is one of those,
one of them
one of those is
music
the
place.
Coffee and
music
sound
place?
Yep,
music.
and then there's
Well,
the
then
new building
why-
right next to it.
Those are over here.
Right,
Yeah, those are in 117A and 116.
right.
Yeah, those are over here.
Yeah.
So these are just houses along,
Yeah.
as you're heading up to the fairgrounds.
I see there being trouble with 619 because I see that the county's current overlay for the natural conservation area
Is a bit low.
is avoided some significant.
Can you click on that?
there.
Click on the parcel.
So,
Edwards.
That's right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I for one
Edmund
would
Pete
think,
Burris.
Edmund P. Burris.
I don't think it should be gateway business. I mean, it's got
Can you
no,
click on that one to the left of it? Oh, okay, so that does go all the way to road frontage.
different property owner though.
So the thing there, though, overall about that
Pete's don't let Pete's bro.
is so that piece that's the whole as gateway business and defining the eastern edge of the fairgrounds and everything that's going on over there. That 109 piece,
Where's that?
it squares it out, even though they'll lose. So it squares it out, but what ends up wanting to happen is fully half of it's unusable. So, but that half that is usable squares out 112 and allows
Yes.
112 to be usable.
Yeah,
So it's not necessarily saying that the whole piece is usable because it shouldn't be,
it just adds to the other one.
but there's logic to why it is because the western part of it is actually usable to make 112 finish out its developability. And that's of course saying you're buying into the big picture.
Yeah, we can move on. I
Although
just,
you're
I
down
just,
to about 3 acres there.
But I agree with you, but then you look at the aggregate of all of that together and it becomes palatable to someone.
and I guess the fairgrounds
Well, we
established
leave
that
it at the
baseline.
gateway.
It's a logical way of looking at it.
Yeah, they'll be hemmed in by the wetland delineation anyway. So.
All right, I'm good.
All right.
Okay, so
That would not be a
zoom
good
back
practice
out.
typically
Okay.
to lay my parcel for gateway business.
So
This one,
77G, that is property. I'll tell you which that is.
Robert,
Probably, you're right.
Yeah.
just read my crystal ball on this.
Cheater.
Yeah, I didn't push the button.
That's true. And then the 2670, I think the reason I'm looking at that is because of the size and because it is kind of in between to what would be commercial for sure uses.
And what's the small use between?
That's Adams Oil.
All right,
Yeah.
got it.
And then you've got one small parcel that has like a house on it technically, or a little rental thing. And then you've got Vintage Antique Shack next to that.
Right.
So don't know that we want to increase a bunch of retail right there. Keep it to the corners and the nodes of the intersection. But, you know, if something like an Adams Oil came along and would want to go behind them or to the side of them, that would be perfect.
Or somebody that buys a lot of fuel.
Any ancillary or, you know, something of that nature. I think those two just have very good prospect because they're big.
So
Well,
you proposing both those go into E?
mhm.
Which two?
these two?
Yeah.
Which one?
The two
I
that
mean,
the
this
yellow
one in the
ones.
gateway here, you know, it's in the gateway, so an I-1 application is a possibility there. If in the course of the picture here, the developer said, well, I need that strip there, maybe off.
might take it. Yeah, we can certainly take that note into it.
Click on it for a second. How big is it?
It's just a tiny,
Yeah.
it's 3/4.
I'll bet you time they get this up, actually, it's nothing they can
Well,
develop.
you only, these little parcels in front of the big parcels, they only become valuable to somebody looking to do more with the big parcel and the frontage requirement. So this would be the same story.
Same story, yeah.
They could do the
These would
same
be, if you're looking at that, you would look at these and say those also. But,
All right,
So I say we leave them alone. Leave them as,
77, leave it alone.
or leave the 77G and 70 as
Yes.
I've put out there. Okay, cool.
And I would suggest, yes, leaving 77D and 77 alone because of the intersection
Yeah,
access.
Yeah.
If someone wanted to expand an I-1 use in there, it's just like we've been saying, they could. But if they wanted to have a little bit variable use on the frontages, they'd be able to do it.
in all honesty, the stuff that's come and looked at the 77, not 77D, but 77 in the past few years has been CC type of stuff. So it's never been an I-1 use looking there. They've looked at 77G as an I-1 use, but not 77.
all right, so we're getting on toward 4:30 here, so.
Yep.
Or you wanna see what this comes to in terms of the,
Sure.
Drum
I
roll.
think, Don, hold on, let's throw the curveball here.
tell me when you.
Don, you asked about swinging down towards 522 and all that stuff, but what is the consensus of the group? Don't go there?
I've always not gone past 522, just because,
I'm talking
Oh,
about.
he's talking about
we look at Winterfield
7-Eleven.
Place.
oh, go that direction. Okay.
Yeah. That's what Bill's bringing up.
What
Winterfield
would
Place.
you make
I
any
think you talked about 522
suggestions?
Right.
Or going up, oh, you mean going up 522?
Well, if we have time for one, I would say more 7-Eleven at 288,
Yeah.
which is near Winterfield Place.
But changing it to EP?
Well, let's
Or
just look at what's there.
Look at what, okay.
Yeah.
We'll
I just
take
want
it,
to look at what's
let's take
there
it
to see if it's
yeah.
worth bringing up to the broader group
yeah, let's take a quick
next
look.
Tuesday, just so we can land this thing.
Put the plan on.
Yeah, I'm okay with not looking at doing things on 522. I mean, this is a, 20, 30-year growth plan.
So really what we're doing is we're looking at right of 288 and to the county line.
I think, Don, I'm correct, you said something about, yes, okay.
This is going to be Chesterfield
Yeah.
Utilities.
These are all
This is sewer.
R right now, these three.
At this time.
That's right.
But as an overlay, they are
Just much more capacity.
opportunity.
Right.
So I guess the question is, what do we want to increase opportunity
Over here.
across 288 on the western side of,
We want to be over
I
here.
would not touch that.
oh, you want to go down there?
Yes,
Where are you talking about, Don?
right down here.
In here?
Independence.
So this is all built out? Is this all built out?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the question is, what's going on in front of this?
That's all.
That's mostly.
Well, that's Wawa and the apartments.
So if you zoom into that area, that little corner right there.
That's
yeah,
all
right.
developed.
It's all developed, yeah. And then the stuff behind it, I think we've appropriately designated that area.
Yes,
So there's just not a lot there that's.
that's right.
They're limited by utilities.
There's not a lot of acreage. It's mostly built out, the progression would be more natural
Mhm.
for whatever's left, where we build things.
Yeah,
So where's the parcel that was handled, and I guess I'm going back to a few years, that the group had that came before us, the board and the planning commission, that wanted to put an event venue, concert, outdoor concert, you probably weren't even around then. It's down there towards 288. And
I thought it was 39. 32, 39.
oh, that probably,
I thought it was Malvern.
that was the,
What is that zone?
Malvern, what about it?
What's its zone now?
Le Moulin.
Yeah, Lee Moore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, well,
It's RR right now.
Or,
It's got it's split zone.
okay. I was just curious. See, I'm taking y'all down the history lane.
You want to do a concert venue there?
Huh?
You want to do a concert venue there?
They would actually want to do a concert venue, outdoor venue, a little,
It's almost like a little village, to
Yep.
be honest.
That's
And
a
it was like a
cool plan.
retreat center, and there was gonna be similar to what Pine Creek is already, but more expansive.
So I feel like we covered the base.
Yeah.
The base is, that's been developed for the most part. There's some infill opportunities and some creative developers might come up with something to do over there, but it's not really a place we're going to establish as a location for light industrial and businesses.
I think
and
It
jobs.
feels bigger than it actually
It
is
just doesn't-
based
there's
on
just
what's
not a lot left to
available.
do there, even though it
Yeah.
has great highway access.
And
So-
you can see here also on these, for example, these three that are in RR at the moment, half of the property is in the part of conservation areas along the river here, so.
Right.
And it's also in the floodplain, so,
Yeah.
and the floodway.
But on the flip side, if somebody came in and they wanted to do something other than RR in there and they had the right plan, it's, the future land use plan would be just one consideration because there's no adjacencies that would be impacted. 288's not impacted, 711's not impacted, they're roads, heavily trafficked wide roads. And so if they controlled a lot of that property, they might even do something in there that would be a business like Amazon with a marquee sign overlooking James River. But we don't want it. Like, it's not, yes, it's not like something we all want to sit here and say, let's encourage that. Like, 'cause it's this natural
As a
corridor.
fleeting
into the
thought.
river.
I think the 7-Eleven corridor is gonna develop very, like you said,
Yeah, it's
organic and
pretty
naturally,
much,
and
You're right.
it's gonna be very strategic when it does come through based on the land.
Because there's limited availability.
Limited.
If somebody comes to you on Route 60, you want to be like, what size parcel? It doesn't need to be water and sewer. Do you want to be up west of the gap or east of the gap?
Right.
They like it works the gap. Well,
Right.
Yeah, when you're done.
Yeah, very, very unique things go up on
Yeah.
that corner, so.
Yeah.
425, Bob, is getting,
We're doing
warned
good.
us one time.
We're doing good.
Bob warned us one time.
Okay, well,
TOD?
well managed.
Gonna call it TOD?
So can you see what the upshot of this is?
Yeah, what are we
So
looking at?
just for edification, it still has like the 341 acres of the solar farm and we added some stuff. We didn't take anything out. We just left them for discussion, correct?
Right. And, well, we took out the one gateway out of picture, but that was never part of our I-1 planning anyway.
Right.
So there really hasn't been much change. There's one of those that has that 0 acreage in there, which we're gonna take care of. I don't know if there's any more of those. Maybe it's just
No, only one on that sheet that I picked up.
only the one. Okay, so I'll fix that. That'll add a little bit. That's not a large piece.
10 acres.
So I think these numbers are probably fairly stable here. So, I mean, they get you under the I-1 version, which is the one we're interested in. This is the version here. That takes you to 16.3%, which is some decent, that's some cushion.
It's well north of 15.
So how hard would it be just for quick purposes to say, pull out the 341? What does it do?
Which one?
Just
Pull that out.
Pull it. Yeah.
Yep.
Give the parcel number.
I'll get the parcel number.
Parcel number would be
43, no, hold on.
41-1.
Yep, okay. I'm gonna put circle points around.
Remember,
Okay, all right, let me just.
Could you put a 0 in there?
Yeah, put a 41. Okay.
You don't mess your spreadsheet up.
It's about, nope, I got it, it's got to put it back. All right, disappeared. And the upshot of that is
14.
Huh.
45,
Cost 2 points.
but you're pretty close with that. That's not allowing for anything out of that parcel.
Okay.
And I think,
So it would be
that's
good.
pretty appropriate, especially, where Roxanne was coming from and Chris, we kind of had this discussion that is set up pretty nicely to have a front end that, could be accessible for the purpose regardless of the back ends with the existing solar plant.
Which backs us closer to the residence.
I was going to say it would be good to do all of the actual changes before next Tuesday's meeting and then do a with and without and show that to the committee, how that one parcel triggers things. Because I think in the end, if we're at 14.9 without it, we include it.
Yeah.
But the other point is, without it, we're at
14.5 without it.
Is that the number though, or we still have some cleanup to do?
Well, is she, well, that had that zero.
He's got that 10 acres
He
down.
got, it was a 10-acre parcel.
It might go 14.7 or 6 or something, maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty darn close. I just, and I'm not saying take it out or take it in. I just think it's such a large parcel, shifted the whole, just by pulling out, it shifted the whole thing.
Well, if we're 14.6 without it and we're 15 or 16.3 with it, unless we're gonna come up with another way to get to 15, it's.
And I don't think, again, I didn't think, I said it one time more, I don't think we should, 15, it has to be, it could be 14.5, it could be 17.5.
Because the strategic plan says 15, right?
It does, but
I don't know.
I mean, you know, and look,
We would add it if it was
keep in
one
mind-
parcel.
Just keep in mind, that's important. All right, what it actually says, the strategic plan is that when the time they do this again in 5 years, we should show progress.
Well, that too.
So the goal,
That
because
also.
alongside saying, we're gonna be at 15 suddenly, you know? I mean, a lot of things likely change between now and then. So that's, you know.
and I think our charge, if you read our charge from the street, was to identify parcels and help them work towards their goal.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And it didn't say whether they were on 522.
Mhm.
If we decided it was 522 and the bridge, let's use that. And that was what this board thinks the best thing is, and we should tell them, hey, that's one of the areas that we think creates the opportunity, you know. And they didn't tell us not to look at a certain area. They said countywide.
That is the one area on 522 where that was mentioned, was it Beaumont that was mentioned? The possibility of future land use planning there, but then I think
Oh, yeah.
Roxanne had said the state had plans for
It'd
it.
be interesting to add it, but I still,
I think I've gone back and forth for a long time on that.
That's still.
I don't want to get into those because, yeah. I don't wanna get-
So that would be another
That's right,
large area that would need
the state.
this
Yeah, I
scope,
don't wanna-
but it's
Yeah,
on
yeah, I
522.
understand.
But I think it's a lot of land. Yeah,
It is.
it would be a huge amount of land.
Uh-huh.
You talking about Beaumont? Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I don't want to get it too ahead of anything else that
They all
might be.
lead to Goochland to 60.
Yeah.
Nobody can come this direction. South.
So that's not a discussion point for Tuesday.
Yeah, it is. That's a
I
discussion.
think we're there then. I mean, if I had to vote 14.8 versus 16.3, hinging on that one parcel, I'd say keep it in, meet the 15% goal and present it to the planning commission and the
Good.
board and see if it's a district that they're, game for. And
And this could be a, one comp plan amendment and 10 years from now, there's another one and they take it out.
Good.
That's
Okay.
Add something else, yeah. So,
Well, the other thing to consider, I think, and I don't know if it's going to go this way or not, I don't have a crystal ball, but with the village plan, we really don't know what that shape is going to be at the end of it. And so the village plan could conceivably, in addition to addressing courthouse uses, residential uses, could conceivably identify that with retail uses, there might be some additional industrial uses. And we just don't know. So
That's
Yeah,
it.
that's right. I don't think Beaumont's anything to be discussed here.
Nope.
All that's totally within the park and conservation area. It's adjacent, almost very close to the park. A lot of feeders come in there. In fact, I think
could actually be a good place to consider for county park expansion, which was mentioned earlier in the
they'd be
meeting.
very happy to have that.
Because when you start looking at proximity to Fighting Creek, that's north and the other is east, and those are both far enough away where it would make sense to regionalize parks, so.
yeah,
Yeah, we saw that. When we were out doing, we were studying the park area, getting the preliminaries before they ever, got the park approved. And we're, cataloging what species are out there, doing things, a bunch of different biologists out there looked at that. People looked across that fence over at Beaumont and said, this really, wow, you could have this in there because it was not, what I'm saying, the fence was just an arbitrary interruption to what the possibility was. So I think that's exactly right. But nothing for us to.
No, I think it's a little cart before the horse situation in any conversation the county has with DOC and all of them. It'd be better if we didn't identify it as anything and we're just open conversations, so.
So for the meeting next Tuesday, we're gonna review the plan for the economic priority.
We're gonna continue that, yep.
And then I was asking Bob earlier, we also are supposed to make recommendations on the economic development element of the comprehensive plan, the
So-
actual written word? or-
So what put in there and I talked to Jamie about was read over it, and if you see anything in there that needs to be added or taken out or something that, any adjustments, is that the time to do it?
Right. So we're going to try to cover that Tuesday because this is our last economic
Mhm.
development chit chat.
And then the only other thing is the conversation on potential, not really our charge, but we can make suggestions on uses in I-1 and CC that we see are kind of conflicting with what we're recommending.
Yeah, and I don't see that as outside the charge at all.
And- and
I mean,
you're
if you're gonna make recommendations on economic development and conditional uses as part of that discussion, they need to be dealt with here. If they're not dealt with here, that makes it a much steeper hill to be able to do anywhere else.
Well, and I think
That makes a lot of sense.
we should do that,
We
and
should.
then the planning commission can roll their sleeves up, and then they can make a recommendation. If you remember, planning commission rolls their sleeves up, make a recommendation to the board, then the board does their public stuff, and then finally goes, this is where we're going.
And the point of doing that is that there's a lot of consternation about the zoning code and the number of permitted uses, and the fact that some of these commercial uses that we want so badly are overlapping, which creates a little bit of confusion in the zoning reviews.
Right.
So why not clean that up a little?
So I'll come to the meeting with both of those zonings with some suggestions of things that might be conflicting from what we've already done. Just to kind of start the conversation. And then if there's anybody who wants to add some additional ones, we'll do that.
And we could
So,
always reconvene on that too.
yeah, and I can
Just
spill over
spitball
to
it.
a next one, yeah.
But the other one you need to add the road by the high school, the transportation.
Yeah, I got that down
Of the
on,
comp plan.
yeah.
That should be a part of our discussion too with the group. if
I think
we're-
we'll review that when we review the rest of the map, so.
Yeah, I want to go back and talk about the strip style and talk about possibly removing that or addressing that,
So we should add,
I think
doing
that was
something with
what
that.
you
Yeah.
suggested.
that's
in
another
terms of
implementation
development.
issue.
Yes.
Development standards. such as
Development
with the
standards.
HCO.
That was an
Yeah.
interesting discussion in the planning session.
What was that about?
What is it called? Corridor.
So are we formally adjourning?
Yeah, can I have a motion and a
We got a
second?
motion to adjourn.
4:35.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Second,
I said, yeah, you got the second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, I just want to say. I want to get in trouble.
We did it!
I think it's clear.
Celebrate
I
your
need a break.
success, everybody. Pat yourself on the back.
Right.
We have the deadline of April and we are moving this
So I
on.
want to think,
Moving this
I
trade
think
forward.
hopefully we'll be able to, in April, before we, let's say we